those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Ilana Nankin. I am the founder and CEO of Breathe for Change, which is an organization on a mission to enhance the health and well-being of educators, students, and entire communities. And we run the world's only 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training that's specifically for educators and community leaders like yourself who really care about using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change. And our curricular progression in our training, we start with a focus on what we call transformation of self, which is all about us cultivating and prioritizing our own well-being. And then from that foundation, we move into transformation of relationships, where we explore how can we show up fully and enhance well-being in the relationships that matter most to us. And that's really where the practice of nonviolent communication becomes so powerful in our relationships. And then from there, we move into transformation of community, where we explore how do we utilize wellness and social emotional learning as vehicles for healing and social change across all of our communities. And so today in our time together, we are so excited to share how can we use the practice of nonviolent communication. And at Breathe for Change, we've adapted it for kids. We call it the peace process. So we're going to talk through how to engage in this incredible practice that was developed by a man named Marshall Rosenberg for use with our own students, and for those of us who are parents, our own kids too. So just a little bit more about me before we dive in, and then I'll let Michelle, my partner in crime, introduce herself too. So I'm a former pre-K teacher. I'm currently in San Francisco on a lonely land. And when I was teaching, I was stressed and overwhelmed and overworked. And that's when I first found many of these mind-body wellness and social emotional learning tools, including the one we'll teach you today. And it just completely transformed my life and my well-being. And I ended up integrating so many of these healing practices into my classroom with my kids, and just saw extraordinary transformations in them, both social emotionally, but then also academically. And I was like, there is something here. So I ended up pursuing my PhD in curriculum and instruction and becoming a teacher educator at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So special shout out to all you Midwestern folks out there. I see you. And so for my dissertation, I ended up following a bunch of educators into diverse classrooms all over the country and world to specifically look at how they take up their ideals of social justice and action in their teaching. And what I found was that across the board, these educators were so stressed and overwhelmed and were burning out, and this negative cycle of well-being was impacting their teaching and their ability to really fulfill on the social emotional needs of their students. So as I was seeing how universal the issue of educator stress and burnout was, I simultaneously was integrating some wellness and social emotional learning practices, including the one that we're going to go through today, as well as yoga. I was doing this with some of my teachers, and day after day, they'd come up to me and say, like, oh my gosh, Ilana, the kids who are using the nonviolent communication or the peace process to help solve the challenges that they're facing, their test scores are improving, or the students who are experiencing so much trauma in the home, like the breathing practices that they're using, it's improving everything. And so one thing led to the next. I was like, nothing's going to stop me. I'm starting a movement. It's going to enhance the health and well-being of educators, students, and entire communities. And that's when Breathe for Change was born in 2015. And since then, we've certified over 6,000 educators and leaders through our 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training. And today you are going to get a little piece of what we do. One of the practices that we integrate into our transformation of relationships component of our training is the power of nonviolent communication. How do we authentically and honestly communicate? And then how do we support our students and our children in doing the same? So that's a little bit of background about me. And I would love to pass it to my partner in crime, fellow lead trainer, Michelle. Will you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I had the distinct amazing opportunity and great luck and gift of joining Breathe for Change in the beginning of 2020, leading trainings right alongside Ilana before the world shut down and we had to go digital. And I've always been a teacher of teachers. And I realized that you all are my people, that I love educators, and that this was an incredible opportunity to espouse my own values as a queer, cisgender, Latinx, mixed race person, able-bodied, highly educated. I have a lot of access, a lot of privilege, and I highly value social change and coming to awareness and helping others. And these tools that we use, yoga and mindfulness and meditation, have been life-changing for me, as well as when I learned nonviolent communication at Breathe for Change. When I first started leading trainings with Ilana, I learned from her. And it has really changed my life. Thank you, Amy. Nice to meet you. So that's a little bit about me and where I come from when I'm leading a training. And I'll say more as we move through this process. And I just am very excited to bring this to an incredible, diverse array of humans, because we really can heal the world if we all create change first and foremost with ourselves, and then move into our relationships with authenticity and connection.
Thank you, Michelle. You're the best. So it wouldn't be a Breathe for Change webinar if we didn't start by settling in together. So I invite you all to find a comfortable seated position, or you can stand if you need to energize your body, or just lay horizontal if you need some rest and relaxation. Then from wherever your comfortable position is, I invite you to do some shoulder rolls. Get any kinks out. Yeah. As educators and leaders, and many of us parents, we carry so much of the weight of the world on our shoulders. Just allow yourself to relax here, release, let something go. I see some of you are doing some neck rolls. Awesome. Yeah. Maybe you clasp your hands above head for a full body stretch. Move on over to one side. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and then gently come back through center to the opposite side. Inhale, exhale. And then whenever you're ready, bring your hands over your heart if that feels comfortable to you. I invite you to soften your gaze or close your eyes and connect to your breath. Feeling the rhythm of your heart beating beneath your palm, and your breath moving in and out, up and down. And as you continue to breathe, I invite you to just notice how you're feeling right now. At Breathe for Change, as our 200-hour trainees and grads in here know all too well, one of our favorite SEL strategies is called the 2-word check-in. So I invite you to find 2 words that describe how you are feeling right now. Just 2 words. And when you've got your 2 words, if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them. Very tired, delighted, and grateful. Put them into the chat. Let's see. Relaxed and happy, agitated, hopeful, excited, calm, bubbly yellow. Love it. Really glad, excited, tired, loving, open, content, pink. I love the colors coming through. Feel good, peaceful, concerned, tired. Oh, we've got everything in this space. And just know that everything is welcome here. So whether you're feeling tired, anxious, overwhelmed, that is perfectly okay. And hopefully by the end of the webinar, you will feel a little bit more grounded and connected. And for those of you who are bringing in some excitement and gratitude and joy, we're so happy to be in this space with you. So thank you all so much. I'd also love for you to put into the chat where you're coming in from. One of the most beautiful things about Breathe for Change is that we are a community of educators from all over. So cool. New Jersey, Connecticut, South Carolina, California, Illinois, Maryland, Montana, Michigan, Florida, Boston, we got everything. Tennessee, welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to have all of you here. So as we mentioned, we are beyond thrilled and excited to dive into the powerful practice of nonviolent communication and how we can use this really, really life-changing toolkit with our kids and with our community members. And at Breathe for Change in our SELF, which is our social emotional learning and facilitation curriculum, we adapt this process. We call it the peace process as a way for our students to really work together to solve any challenges that are arising. So Michelle and I are going to walk you through the outcomes of this workshop. So the number one outcome is for you to enhance your own well-being through learning to engage in this courageous, authentic tool that allows you to engage in conversations. And obviously that's through nonviolent communication. So this is because you matter and your well-being matters and is the foundation for your capacity to teach. Now, Michelle, want to do outcome 2?
I'd love to. Outcome 2, you will be able to teach your students and community how to engage in courageous conversations that can help address their challenges that they're currently experiencing in their lives and in the world.
And then last but not least, at Breathe for Change, community is at the heart of everything that we do. So our intention is that you feel connected to these amazing educators and leaders who are here, who are also committed to using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change. So it is time to listen to what you need. And I know that as educators and leaders, so often we're so focused on giving ourselves to everyone else that, at least for me, I often forget, like, what do I need for myself? How do I listen to what is going on inside so that I can make choices and requests from a space of truth? And that's what the powerful practice of nonviolent communication, which again was created by Marshall Rosenberg several decades ago, is all about. And so nonviolent communication is a practice that I learned about, let's see, I was trained on it like 15 years ago, at least. And it is something that at first felt a little bit structured and off and a little bit awkward. And then as I started to put the steps of this powerful tool into action in my life and in my relationships, it completely transformed the way that I showed up and the way that I actually communicated, not only with others, but also sought to better understand myself. And so as I started practicing this in my own relationships, I realized, oh my gosh, my little pre-K students can probably benefit from a practice like this. And so I started to modify this tool in my own classroom with my 4-year-olds. And since then have used it in elementary, middle, high school, college level. And with, we train thousands upon thousands of educators in nonviolent communication and how to use this peace process in the classroom all over the country and world. So I'm so excited to share it with you today and ask that those of you who are brand new to nonviolent communication, just get excited about using some new tool and adding that to your toolkit and bringing with you what does resonate and leaving behind what doesn't. And for those of you who already have had training in nonviolent communication, or this isn't your first time experiencing the practice, we invite you to just take it deeper and to strengthen your understanding of how you can more effectively draw on this practice in your life and in your teaching. And so nonviolent communication requires us to have some prerequisite skills. So Michelle, will you talk about these?
Absolutely. So our first prerequisite is presence. This is an amazing skill in and of itself, and it's really at the core of any mindfulness. This is being present and being mindful when you're interacting with others. So it really is the first step to engaging in effective communication. So you bring yourself immediately out of being in a reactive state. And that can happen just by taking a simple deep breath and coming into awareness of how you are. That's the second prerequisite, which is self-awareness. Once we have presence, then it allows us to cultivate a deeper awareness of how we are feeling. So we take a deep breath, we feel our presence, and then that allows us the insight of how we are actually feeling in the moment. And it slows us down to do that. And the prerequisite skill of self-management follows that. So once we are feeling present and we become aware of how we feel, we then expand our capacity to pause, to reflect, and then thoughtfully respond.
So just out of curiosity, I would love for all of you to put into the chat, like, what is your greatest strength when it comes to these 3 prerequisite skills? Are you the best at being present? Are you the best at being aware of what's going on? Or are you the best at managing yourself? Just to see what's in the room so you can see what's coming through. Oh, I see some self-awareness for sure. Lots of presence and self-awareness, a few self-managements coming through. It's a little bit of everything. Lots of self-awareness, managing. Awesome. So cool. And now let's take a pause, take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Out with a huge sigh. 3 collective breaths is one of our favorite practices that we do in Breathe for Change all the time with our students. So you can add that one to your toolkit. So just out of curiosity, when you look at this, presence, self-awareness, and self-management, which one are you like, ooh, that one's tough for me. That's something I got to work on a little bit more effectively. It's just important to take this little pulse of ourselves. Interesting. So I see mostly presence and self-management. I resonate heavily with that. Awesome. Some awareness too. So just, note what your glows are, what your grows are as we move through this process, recognizing that all 3 of these things, being present, being aware, and being able to manage ourselves as we communicate nonviolently, are absolutely critical to fostering courageous conversations. So let's dive in to the powerful practice of nonviolent communication. So nonviolent communication consists of 4 steps. The first step is observations. The second step is feelings. The third step is needs. And the fourth step is requests. And I put into the chat just now a link that you can pull up as a resource. I'm going to walk you through it so you don't need to look at it right now. Just have it available to you so that you can have access to it later when we need it. But the document that I shared in the chat is actually written by Marshall Rosenberg from the nonviolent communication framework itself. And we'll walk through these 4 steps in more detail. So let's break down these 4 steps. So the first step is observation. So in this step, you're bottom lining what happened without any judgment or opinion. So I'm going to walk through these 4 steps, and then we'll talk about how do we incorporate this and modify this practice for our kids. So first, bottom line what happened without any judgment or opinion. Now, this means that there's no generalizations, not like you always do this or you always do that. This means that you're naming what happened. It's factual, what happened without any story around it, so that the person that you're speaking to wouldn't, fight you on that, right? It happened. Like, for example, let's say Michelle, I'm going to call you out here, even though this isn't true, but it's an example. Let's say that yesterday, Michelle was 10 minutes late to our collaborative time together. And so I could say, like, Michelle, yesterday you arrived 10 minutes late and didn't communicate with me to let me know. All of those things are fact, right? If I had said yesterday you were always, or sorry, Michelle, you're always late, she'd be like, no, I'm not always late. So fact, and then a bad example would, again, using that more general language. So we recommend doing this in only one sentence, because usually if there's more than one sentence around the observation, likely there's some story there that is not necessarily quote unquote true. So thumbs up, yes in the chat, give me an emoji if we're clear on that first step, observations. Sweet. All right, so next up, once we've stated what we've observed, clear, yes, awesome. Okay, once we stated what we observed, then we move into the feeling step. Now, this is where we identify and name our emotions that we're experiencing as a result of what we observed, right? So the sentence frame that you would use, or you would invite your students to use, is I feel, or I felt. The experience of the emotion might still be real right now. In that case, you'd be like, I feel, right? If you felt some way yesterday and you want to speak about it, you'd use past tense. And the beauty of nonviolent communication is that Marshall Rosenberg created what he called the nonviolent communication feelings inventory, which I'll walk you through in a moment. And what we recommend at Breathe for Change is that you choose 3 feeling words, or your students choose 3 feeling words on that nonviolent communication feelings inventory to identify how you felt. Now, let me just give a few examples of what not to do, because I think it helps us learn how to use this tool. So if you're using the example that we did with Michelle, and I said, yesterday when you arrived 10 minutes late and didn't communicate with me to let me know, what you do want to do is, I felt frustrated, confused, and upset, right? I found those 3 words from the feelings inventory list. I'm not creating story around the feelings. I'm literally just naming the word of the feeling itself. I'm not saying I felt frustrated because you're so mean, you were late, like no story around it. It's just the feelings itself. You'll notice I'm also not saying you made me feel. That takes ownership and responsibility away from me, the person speaking. And so this is why we use I language only. I felt. The other pitfall I often notice, and I fell into this the first few years I did this practice, was, it made me feel, like as if her being late made me feel. Again, the power of this practice is in the 100% ownership of our emotions. So I felt this, I felt that. You just name what you observed. Okay, give me a thumbs up, a yes in the chat, 100% if you're clear on that piece. Awesome. So no story around the words, just the words itself. We recommend 3 feelings. And the reason we recommend 3 as opposed to 1 is our emotions are complex and nuanced. And sometimes if I just said upset without adding the additional confused or frustrated or overwhelmed, it doesn't share as big of like, it doesn't reflect as much of my experience. So we recommend 3, but if you're using this with young children, for example, I would definitely recommend 1 word, right? I would never tell my pre-K students, choose 3 words to describe your feelings. And I also would modify and adapt the feelings inventory, because there's no way that they have access to the emotional vocabulary that's on the inventory itself. So we'll talk about how to modify that based on the age of students or kids that you're working with. Once you've stated what you've observed, named how you felt as a result, then we talk about our needs. That's step 3. So then you're identifying and stating your needs. And I find this one to be super, super powerful, because so often as educators, as givers, we're like constantly thinking about everyone else's needs, and we don't take the moments to be like, wait, what do I need here? So for me personally, I find that this is a huge eye-opening step for me, and sometimes like gives me new insights that I didn't realize about myself, about what I value and is important to me. So here you'd be like, okay, yesterday when you arrived 10 minutes late and didn't communicate with me to let me know, I felt frustrated, confused, and upset because of my need for, or because I value is another way to put it, like integrity, communication, and consideration, right? So here, I'm not just naming how I felt, but what the underlying need, whether it's a satisfied need or it was unsatisfied in this moment, was for me. And that gives you insight about yourself. It also gives the person you're communicating with insight into how they can best support you moving forward, right? What are those needs that they have, or the things that they value? So in nonviolent communication, the way Marshall Rosenberg designed it is he also created a needs inventory in addition to the feelings inventory. And so here is a list of needs. I'll walk you through it in a moment, where again, we'd recommend you choosing about 3 needs for adults. You can lower that number for younger children that you're working with. And this is where you identify your need. And then once you've identified your feelings and your needs, then it's time for the last step, which is requests. So here you're like, all right, well, would you be willing to, right? Based on what I said, like, for example, yesterday when you arrived 10 minutes late, Michelle, and didn't communicate with me to let me know, I felt frustrated, confused, and upset because of my need for integrity, communication, and consideration. So would you be willing to arrive 3 minutes early to our future meetings? And if you can't make it on time, just send me a text before to let me know, right? That would be an example of a request. And so the one thing I will say is these can be realistic, tangible appeals. They can be yes or no answers. Like Michelle could easily say, Michelle, how might you answer that? Would you say yes,
Well,
no, maybe?
Yeah, okay, I think I can do that for you, Ilana.
Right? Or she could be like, no, that doesn't
Yeah.
work for me. Now, I want to point that out because I often hear people feeling like nonviolent communication is a failure if the person you're communicating with says no or doesn't reply the way you want to the request. Again, this is something that is super important. The quote unquote success of this process has nothing to do with whether or not the person you're communicating with says yes or agrees to your request, right? The whole purpose of this is for us to have a structure to communicate authentically and vulnerably and honestly with the people in our lives. And this starts when we're young, right? I see some questions in the chat about how you would do this with the little ones. And I'll just walk you through that because this is like my love. So for the little ones, I, in my classroom, created what I called a peace corner. So Ed and I called this the peace process. And every single time that anything happened between either myself and a student, 2 students fighting over a bear or fighting over, like upset because someone took their pencil, something like that, they would go into the peace corner and have go through the peace process. But it didn't just happen like that, right? You have to scaffold it for any age. But when you're working with the young ones, I had to model it tons of times in the beginning of the school year. And as we're entering into the summer and then we're starting in the school year, it's a great tool to have as you enter into next year, thinking about like, okay, what do we do when challenges arise in our teaching? And then we can work it out through nonviolent communication or the peace process. And how this works is then I would model with myself and another adult or myself and one of the students and be like, Michelle, when you took my pencil, I felt sad, confused, and upset because of my need for friendship. So can you not take my pencil anymore? Right? I'd model it. And then sometimes we'd make up scenarios. I'd ask students, what are some challenges that we might have in our classroom? And we'd like pick some examples and then model it. Now with the feelings for the young ones, I would open up space and ask them, like, what are some feelings that we feel? Sad, happy, like mad, afraid, those kind, like they're not going to have vulnerable at age 4, right? So what I would do is I would have a feelings wall. I'd take pictures of different students making the face so that they could have a visual. And I would put a label next to each of the faces, and we'd grow the feelings wall in terms of our vocabulary over time, and that they could use as a way to figure out what their feelings were, identify that in their communication. And then essentially the peace process, and this is if you take our 200-hour training, it's in our SELF manual, there's like a visual of these 4 steps for younger children. And then the request can be anything that they want. And so I modeled it several times. Then I would have 2 students model it together so that it was no longer me, I was facilitating. And then literally within 1 to 2 months of school, 0 tattling in my classroom, 0. Literally what happened is all I would hear is, Miss Ilana, I solved my problem in the peace corner. She's going to get 3 bears. I'm going to get 2 today. And tomorrow we switch, because they just knew if they had a problem, they go to the peace corner and solve it. So it's incredible. And then I'm going to walk you through the inventory so you can see how you might adapt what I just said for middle schoolers, for high schoolers, for adults, because it's really, really powerful to use the inventories as a resource to strengthen this process. So if you this is the resource that I sent in the chat. It's this nonviolent communication packet. The first 2 pages are it's just an overview of what violent communication is, what nonviolent communication is, why do people value this process, and the benefits. Here are the 4 steps that I walk you through with some sentence frames. And then I talked about the feelings inventory. And the example that I used with Michelle and being late was an example of when my feelings were not satisfied, or my needs were not satisfied. You'll notice on this page, the first feelings inventory, these are feelings when your needs are satisfied. So you don't always have to use nonviolent communication to solve issues, right? Or for conflict resolution. I could also tell Michelle, today when we collaborated together to create our 300-hour curriculum, I felt, touched, proud, and empowered because of my need for collaboration, connection, and inspiration. So would you be willing to continue to collaborate with me as my partner in crime for the rest of our lives to come through Breathe for Change, right? Like I can, and Michelle, you can respond to that if you'd like.
Absolutely. That is my dream.
Amazing. So nonviolent communication can be so positive, so moving. It's a structure for any type of communication. Like when my husband brought me flowers the other day, I was like, hey, I call him Pokey. Hey, Pokey, when you brought me red roses, I felt inspired, excited, and delighted because of my need for romance, connection, and love. So would you be willing to continue to get me red roses every single day? And he fell on the floor laughing. So like you can have fun with this tool too, but for the sake of really supporting us and our students in developing like conflict resolution skills, this is where you can go to observe the feelings that aren't satisfied. It turned blue. So there's families afraid, annoyed, aversion, disconnected. And you can see there's a ton of words here. So if you're teaching fourth grade, for example, you might look at this list and be like, this is a little bit too advanced for in terms of emotional vocabulary for my students. So what you could do is co-create feelings list with them. You could look through these feelings, knowing who your students are, and see which ones you think are resonant to them now. And then you can build the list as students add to it. There's so many different ways that you can do it. If you're teaching in high school, this might be a great way to build people's vocabulary. And again, we invite you to choose 3. If you're in the high school or adult category of people, because then we're really getting to the nuance of emotion. And if you're in early childhood, elementary, you could do 1 word, or you can invite them to do 2 words. Same middle school, anywhere from 1 to 3 words, whatever feels most supportive for your students. And then here is the needs inventory. So the needs inventory, once you've identified those 3 feelings, and you can use feelings from either feeling inventory. Sometimes you feel some things that are positive and others that don't really sit right with you. Then you identify your needs. So you can see, like, because of my need for, because I value safety or joy or awareness, right? And then you can encourage your students to really work with the needs that they have. And then this last page has the 4 questions just as a support to you, to give you the resource to walk through those questions. So just going to pause for a moment, and let's do one of my favorite SELF practices that we do is called a tense and release. After like a lot of cognitive learning, it's really nice to have a physical release. So I invite you to clench your wrists together, your face, your body, all the things, clench, clench, clench. And then just slowly, mindfully, just let everything go. You can bring your hands down towards your lap. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Amazing. And now at Breathe for Change, one of the things, we tag on the F to SEL, right? It's spelled SELF because we believe it's so critically important for us as educators and leaders, and many of us parents, to embody the wellness and the social emotional learning and the communication practices that we hope to teach our students and our children. And so for the sake of us really feeling how this process works in our own lives, we're going to invite you to journal for just a few minutes. And then at the end, we'll engage in a conversation that brings all of this together. And what we invite you to do in this journaling, so you can take out a piece of paper, you can write in your notes on your computer, in whatever way feels good for you. We invite you to go through, just think about a situation or conflict in your life that you want to communicate about. Now, this can be something like super positive, like, the collaboration or the rose example that I did. If you want to communicate love, it can also be a conflict you're working through. We want you to stay in your stretch zone, not go into your panic zone here. So do something that feels like you can work with in just a few minutes, and do this process. So first you're stating the situation that you want to communicate about in 1 sentence. And again, just if there's a pattern that's showing up, like your partner's leaving the laundry for the 1,000th time on the floor, just choose the most recent example of that and communicate about that, because usually that's brings to life the general pattern. So state the facts in only 1 sentence. Then we'll invite you to identify and name your emotions. So you can go into that feelings inventory that is in the packet and say, I felt or I feel, and then choose 3 words. And then we'll do the need. So then you identify and state your need. So because of my need for, and you choose 3 words from the needs inventory, and then make a request. And again, the request can be anything. It can be literally anything that your heart desires. So take about 5 minutes now to do this. And then we're super excited about how we'll close this out together and really bring this home for how we can share this with our students. And I will put on some nice music for you all. I know it is so hard to not put opinions or feelings into the observations. And that's really where we become aware of, oh my goodness, look at how much I often add my own spin to this. So. And if you have any questions, you can put it into the chat. Happy to answer. So take about 1 more minute to just complete this reflection, knowing that you may not be done with the 4 steps. Totally fine. The point was to get it started. All right. If you are still writing, if you could bring your hands up to the screen, give energy and appreciation to each other. Awesome. Also, give yourself a hug. That takes a lot of courage. The thing that we want to just bring home is that nonviolent communication, or the peace process, whatever you want to refer to it as, is speaking authentically and vulnerably is never easy, right? It's not like, it's like, oh, I do this once, check. Like, I've been practicing this for 15 years and I still feel all the feels when I'm entering into this type of a conversation. But it is always, on the other side of the conversation, so much more meaningful, so much more powerful, and so much more healthy for the relationship when we are communicating in a way that is truthful, honest, and vulnerable. And so, Michelle, I want to pass it to you to just share a little more about your experience using this awesome tool and any words of wisdom you have.
Well, first and foremost, it initially, when you start out, I feel like it feels very formulaic, and I'm going through, okay, step one, and then I say this, right? And then here are my three and it starts to flow and become much more familiar and much more a part of your vernacular, and I'm speaking specifically as an adult doing this practice. And I mentioned before that it really has, it's changed my relationships so greatly. I was born and raised in a family where we just yelled at each other, honestly. Like, there was not a lot of conversation that was courageous, that was patient. It was very loud and tremendously scary as a young girl, right? So I learned that way of communication. So what NVC has helped me to do is to pause, to use my tremendous skills that I have honed over 26 years as a yoga practitioner and asana instructor, to tap into that deep well of understanding and awareness of my feelings, and then be able to communicate them in a way that the other person is able to hear me, because I'm not coming at them and making them defensive. Automatically, when we turn ourselves into making I statements and speaking from a place that is raw and authentic, you automatically enter into a different zone almost. And hopefully the other person is able to hear you and go with you. And sometimes they don't, and that's okay. So that's just been my experience.
I love it. So I want to address some of the questions in the chat because they're amazing. So one thing that I want to name is that it is definitely best to proactively teach this when students are not in a heightened state of stress or panic or triggered. We want to teach this as like a dialogue. What do we want communication to look like in our classroom or in our community? What is authentic communication mean? What is it? Why is being honest important? You can have a dialogue with them and then teach them, ask them how we want to solve our conflicts together if you want to use it for that purpose. Definitely I see a lot of questions around like, is this how you would manage crisis situations? Absolutely not. It's a tool, and you use this tool when it's supportive for yourself and your students. And if students are in the midst of trauma or crisis, you absolutely wouldn't be like, let's engage in a nonviolent communication. They need grounding, they need orienting, they need centering practices, which we go into, and they need like a trauma-informed response. And this tool that's why we want to teach it proactively when they're open to learning. And then when things get heightened, they can draw on it in stressful moments to work through conflict if that's necessary. So does that make sense? Thumbs up there. All right, awesome. The other thing I wanted to name is that if you are teaching everyone nonviolent communication in your space, people do this at their staff meetings. We have Breathe for Change 200-hour graduates that are weaving this into their whole school climate and culture. All educators are using it. The students are using it from grade to grade. They're doing family peace process nights or teaching nonviolent communication. It's amazing. So if you are actually teaching, I taught you how to do the speaking piece or the reflection piece, but I didn't talk about how you would do the listening piece. So if Michelle and I are doing a nonviolent communication, what would happen is I would go through the 4 steps until the request. So I wouldn't be stopped. She would just mindfully listen to me while I'm going through the 4 steps. I'd be like, hey, can we engage in a nonviolent communication conversation? Sure. And I'd be like, hey, Michelle, today when you told me I look happy, I felt excited, seen, and heard because of my need for connection, gratitude, and friendship. So would you be willing to keep acknowledging what you see in me? And then she would then respond, when I heard you say X, you felt this because of your need for this, and then respond to the request. Does that make sense? So she would say, Michelle, if you want to do the response, I don't know if you remember what I said, but
We'll see how much I get.
go for it.
So when you said that yesterday or earlier today, when I told you that you look so happy, you felt proud and happy and smiled. I did forget.
Because I talked for like a minute between. So that's why you do it right away. But you get that. The thing is I get a lot of people are like, wait, but what if I don't get it right? Just like what happened. It's the essence. It doesn't matter if you say the exact words. It's like, are you there with the person, right? Are you listening? That's why presence, self-awareness, and self-management are those prerequisite skills. Because if our mind is somewhere else, we're distracted. If we're on our cell phone, it ain't happening, right? So it's the essence. And so if you're teaching this to your staff or your students or doing it at home or with your friends, then definitely share that, okay, how it works is the person saying the nonviolent communication does the whole process. And then that the other person's mindfully listening and reflects back what they heard. And then at the end of that reflection responds to the request in whatever way. And I saw another question about responding, like, what do you do if they say no? You celebrate. That's great data for you. That's information about how you want to move forward in the relationship. Again, the success does not rely on the person saying yes. They have full agency and choice to say whatever it is that they want, right? And if someone you're in a relationship with says something that you don't want to hear, then maybe you don't want to be in that relationship anymore. But isn't that great data for you, right? So again, we are empowering ourselves and our students to identify our emotions, connect to our feelings, own them, and acknowledge and see and accept our needs that we have, and from there make a request. And again, they're allowed to say whatever they want, right? That's hard for people to accept because it's like we have these expectations of how, and so we don't want to use this as a tool for manipulation. If you have an expectation of how you want them to respond, you likely are going to put in some things in your communication to get them to say something, which is again not the point. We're just being true to ourselves. So hopefully this is something that you can use in your life, in your teaching, and what I recommend now that you've got the summer is share it with your loved ones. Like find your partner or your friend or your colleague at school and be like, hey, I went to a Breathe for Change workshop. I learned nonviolent communication. This is it. You want to practice it with me and start feeling what it feels like to practice it. That's how I started. I would teach it to like one-off people and then I'd get more and more comfortable. Now I don't even realize I'm constantly speaking in nonviolent, like I'm just using it. It's just how I talk. But before it like takes a while to feel comfortable. So you have that space now to do that. Many of you who have a little bit of time off, hopefully soon or now. And so again, I see that a lot of you direct messaged me about our how you can learn more about this. So it just gives you a tiny taste of what we do in Breathe for Change. As Michelle and I mentioned from the beginning, we run the world's only 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training that's specifically for amazing educators and leaders like yourself who are using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change. And we have some upcoming trainings coming, and we would love for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more about what we do. We'll stay for a couple minutes now and just share about our training so that you can hear about it. So thank you for all of you for just mindfully listening to us, for engaging in this courageous conversation. And we really are excited for those of you who this is your first time at Breathe for Change to join our movement, to get more involved, and for many of you to take our 200-hour training. So we'll just do a short overview of the outcomes of our 200-hour training. We'll talk about the curriculum and the structure. We'll name what certifications and credits that you get, and we'll explore how you can join our community. And then we can stay for questions at the end. So in terms of training outcomes, the number one outcome of our 200-hour training is for you to enhance your own physical, mental, and social emotional well-being through cultivating a personal and sustainable yoga and meditation practice. And that's because you matter and your well-being matters. Michelle, you want to take number 2?
Sure do. You will be able to teach inclusive and accessible yoga classes and meditation practices for both adults and young people in person and digitally.
So you're going to be certified yoga teachers. It's amazing. And our goal is that you also graduate with the tools to effectively facilitate social emotional learning and wellness experiences for both adults and young people in your school, district, or organization. So you truly become a leader of wellness and SEL in your community. And then last but not least, our favorite.
You get to join our amazing community of passionate educators and leaders who are committed to using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change. This is one of the best parts of what we get to do.
That's right. You will make friends that last a lifetime. So now that we know where we're headed, what content will we be learning? So our training consists of 6 content areas. Our Breathe for Change workshops, which are grounded in our transformational curricular progression, which I'll talk about in a moment. Our SELF, as I mentioned, we tag on the F to SEL because we believe it's so important to embody the practices that we teach our kids. And here you'll learn our 8 SELF components, which are settle in, breath awareness, mindful movement, community connection, focus, creative expression, relaxation, and closing. So you learn all those different types of strategies, and then also how to weave those practices together to ultimately facilitate wellness workshops and professional development in your community. In asana, this is where we break down the yoga poses, we learn how to sequence them together, and ultimately how to design and teach inclusive and trauma-informed yoga classes to both adults and young people. Then meditation is, depending on where you're at in your meditation journey, if you're brand new to meditation, you'll learn to develop a practice and how to guide others through meditation. And if you're already have a meditation practice, you'll deepen your already existing one and also learn to facilitate a wide range of meditations in your community. Philosophy is all about the history of yoga and the ethical principles of yoga. And we engage in these courageous conversations in our community groups, which is the small family within the larger family of our 200-hour training cohorts, about how these ethical principles apply to our life and teaching. And then anatomy is like we explore our whole bodies and how our physical bodies connect to the yoga practice. And the goal here is to ultimately build a closer relationship and healthier relationship with our bodies. So as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, our training really is grounded in this transformational curricular progression. So we begin with a focus on transformation of self, which is all about you cultivating your own well-being. And then from that foundation of your own well-being, we move into transformation of relationships, where we explore how to show up fully in all of our relationships. And then we move into transformation of community, where which is why so many of you come to Breathe for Change in the first place. This is where we learn to utilize wellness and SEL and yoga as vehicles for healing and social change in our communities. And then we end with integration and renewal, where we celebrate the amazing transformations that have unfolded and then prepare ourselves to step into our leadership at our highest capacity. So again, everything we do in our training is designed to support you in using wellness, SEL, and yoga as vehicles for healing and social change. So through our training, you get 2 certifications, which is amazing. You get your internationally recognized 200-hour yoga teachers certification, which is the gold standard yoga teacher certification that enables you to register through the Yoga Alliance, which is the certifying body for yoga teachers around the world. And then you also get your social emotional learning facilitator certification. So because we're the only yoga teacher training in the entire world that's specifically for educators, and our training is not only focused on the physical practice of yoga, but social emotional learning and equity and trauma informed practice and mindfulness and all the things that we all as educators and leaders care about. You also get your social emotional learning facilitator certification. So it qualifies you to lead SEL and mindfulness and wellness workshops and PD and practices in your schools, districts, and organizations. And then in terms of graduate credits and CEUs, we know that many of you would benefit from graduate level professional development credits and continuing education units. And so we partner with universities to support you in getting the PD credits and university level credits that you need. So our training is a combination of the most interactive, engaging, inspiring live sessions on Zoom that you've probably ever experienced in your life, as well as on-demand content that you complete at your own pace between the live sessions, so that by the time we come to the live sessions, everyone is on the same page. We're going deeper, we're practice teaching, we're engaging in courageous conversations, and we're building community. And then as part of the 200-hour training, this is so exciting, you also get access to being a Breathe for Change member. So to our membership, which includes live yoga classes and guided meditations and wellness and SEL PD, and classroom curriculum and daily wellness practices in our Breathe for Change platform and community conversations. It includes all these things to deepen your practice along the way. And then if you can't attend our live yoga classes and guided meditations or PDs, there is an ongoing resource library that is growing and growing that you'll have access to as part of this membership. And the second you sign up for training, so if you sign up for our summer cohorts now or October cohorts now, you will get immediate access to this membership and join Michelle and me and our other trainers for all of these amazing events, and you'll get access to our resources. So there are 3 trainings that are coming up. We're so excited because summer is just around the corner. We have just a few spots left. So for those of you who are interested, we highly recommend applying today, and I'll walk you through how you can do that. So we have a Monday, Tuesday cohort, which means the live sessions on Zoom are on Mondays and Tuesdays starting June 27th and through August 8th and 9th is the last week. You'll notice these live sessions are weekly from 9 to 3 Pacific, 10 to 4 Mountain, 11 to 5 Central, or 12 to 6 Eastern. The only week we skip is the 4th of July because it's a national holiday. Then there's a Wednesday, Thursday cohort. So if Wednesday, Thursday is better than Monday, Tuesday for you, you can do that cohort. That starts June 29th. And then you get certified in the beginning of August. And if for some reason you can't do the summer, you already have, vacations planned or you're doing summer school, you can sign up for the October cohort now and get immediate access to all of our content, to our Breathe for Change membership, and you can start right away. So that the school year model is a monthly live session model because you mostly have full-time jobs. And so you can, the live sessions will be on a weekend once a month. And so one of our missions is to make Breathe for Change as accessible and affordable as possible to educators everywhere. We don't want the finances to be a challenge for people. And so typically a yoga teacher training is like $4,000 or $5,000. And we've done everything we can to reduce that. So our tuition is $29.95, but right now we are offering $1,000 educator discount to anyone who is applying right now, which would bring your tuition down to $19.95. And this is because we have seen the incredible work that you've been doing over the last few years. Our world needs you so badly, and you are amazing. So we just want to honor the work that you're doing. And we also recognize $19.95 is a lot of money especially for many of us as educators. And so we offer interest-free payment plans for $250 a month. And in order to apply to and be considered in our training, you need to submit an application and schedule your call with one of our educator development advisors. And then on that 20-minute call, you'll share more about you. You'll be able to answer all of your questions. And if it feels like a good fit for you and Breathe for Change, then we'll register you for the training or give you the resources that you need to do so yourself. And so I am just going to pull up for just a moment because I had some questions in the chat about this. So the application, which I just put in the chat, as you can see, the $1,000 off is available for you if you apply right now. So it's a very short form. The point is for you to get on a call. And I see when I say educator, Erin, it means educator in every sense of the word. We have early childhood folks, K through 12 folks. We have social workers, counselors, therapists, psychologists. We have education nonprofit people who are in transition and care about the mission. So no matter what, you are, as a music therapist, you're absolutely qualified. And that's the beauty of our community groups in our training, is that we get you in a group of 9 or 10 other people with a mentor with similar professional backgrounds. So all the music therapists will be together, and all of the college professors will be together, and the administrators will be together, and the 3rd grade teachers will be together. So we personalize it for you to make sure you're getting the relationships that you need out of this. So all you need to do right now to schedule your call with our educator development advisor. And again, I recommend that you do this now, even if you're like 10% interested in like learning more. You don't need to know that you can do it if in order to fill this form. This is why we do it, is to talk to you. So first name, last name, and your information, your position or role. You'll see therapist there. And then why are you inspired to join? You can fill this out and then submit. And on the other side of submit is where you will have access to scheduling your call with our educator development advisor. I highly recommend. Their calendars are filling up very, very quickly, especially as trainings are coming. When are they starting? It's like in less than 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, Michelle, so exciting. So Michelle and I lead all the trainings. So we'll hang out with you all summer or in October for those of you applying for October. We also co-lead this with our amazing colleague, Bree Walker, who is she was a graduate of our training in 2017 and has an administrator, a teacher, everything. One thing I just want to note is that we feel we do everything that we possibly can to make this as accessible and affordable for you. So I talked about the interest-free payment plans. So in order to get into the training, you need to put down a $250 quote deposit. That's just your first payment of your tuition. And then we get you on a monthly payment plan. But we also work with you to get funding. So what most people do, schedule your call with your educator development advisor. On that call, let them know, like, I'm going to seek out funding and all this, but they'll register you in the training so you can start right away and work with you as you seek out external sources of funding. So do any of you know Donors Choose? Yeah, I see some of you saying, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, it's an amazing platform for educators that allows you to fund or create a project that gets funded by the community and it's relevant to your role in education. And so we've had thousands of educators get partially or fully funded on Donors Choose. Our CFO is actually the former CFO of Donors Choose. So we love Donors Choose, and you don't need to, because we've had so many people do this successfully, we want to give you the resources to not have to start from scratch. So we've created templates for you to start a Donors Choose project. We also have examples of grads who've been fully funded and successful in Donors Choose. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just make it your own and launch your project as your, and as you're working to get into the training. You can, but we again recommend that you apply, still sign up, and then at any point, if you get funded, then you just reach out to support@breatheforchange.com. You go, I got funding. And we're like, great, give you back your money, because that's what we love to do, is take someone else's from you. So if you get funded, we will absolutely take it back. Or reimburse you, I should say. The other thing that is happening more and more, and we're super excited about it, is that a lot of schools and districts have professional development funds that, and especially since COVID started, there's a lot of funds that will support educator PD, especially around SEL and mental health. And so Breathe for Change is perfect for that, like the ESSER funds that are available. And so we've written a funding justification letter that you can send to your administrator or supervisor, whoever is the person responsible for funding. And it explains the benefits, the research behind this, how it's aligned to the CASEL competencies and the SEL standards that many states are upholding now. You can either email it or just walk into someone's office. I guess it's summer for many of you, so maybe it's more of an email, and just and advocate for yourself. So that's another way that we can support you. And then again, you can still sign up with a $250 deposit, so you can start this summer. And if you get funding from your school 2 months down the line, we'll reimburse you everything, and we'll set up an invoice with your school or district. And you'll work with our educator development advisors and let them know what's going on, so they have a pulse and they can support you in getting any of the funding that you need for this. And just to answer the question around on-demand content, again, it's a combination of the live sessions on Zoom, and then you have about like anywhere from 8 to 15 hours of on-demand content that you can do between those live sessions. Why there's such a range is some people go back to you can think about it as like a wellness workshop or wellness retreat for you, right? Some of these are guided meditations or yoga practices, or you're learning like nourishing SEL strategies. And so people love to go back to them over and over again, and to get on their mat or to engage in a meditation practice. And so everything you're going to do through Breathe for Change is supporting your well-being. So you can think about like you in these Zoom sessions being on your retreat, it's your self-care time, and you allocating, an hour a day or however many minutes a day or a chunk a week to our on-demand content is for you and supporting you. So let me see. So that's about 72 hours of live. And the rest is you engaging in the on-demand content. But a lot of this, like you will be collaborating with people between live sessions and stuff like that too. So that also counts towards your hours. So let's see, are there any other questions that I didn't answer? I'm happy to.
Rachel had a great question. Rachel, if you're still here, about finding teachers who've completed our training to do PD at your school. A couple different things. We could do PD from Breathe for Change, and also you can write to support@Breathe for Change. and our support folks, our amazing support team would be happy to help you connect with folks in your area who could do a PD for you. That would be amazing and so much fun.
Totally. And if you do our 200-hour training, then you can do PD for your whole school, which is so cool. So many of our graduates are, like getting promoted to different, mindfulness lead or SEL coordinator, or their head of professional development, like in addition to their teaching roles, or like so many people are leading professional development because we train you to do that through our training. So I love that you're already seeking that out. And if you do it, you'll also be equipped to do that. So even if it's not in the cards at this point, I would still recommend applying so that you can talk to our educator development advisors. They can continue to give you the resources that you need to support you in making it happen. So we do not currently offer PD hours for our free webinars, but if you are in our 200-hour training as part of our membership, you get PD hours and credits for attending our webinars. Yes, the book on nonviolent communication, if you just literally get the book called Nonviolent Communication, that's like the foundation, written by Marshall Rosenberg. And if any of you, what our graduates have to say, check out, this is a recent graduation, which do you all want to see? It's a few-minute video of, if you want to quote unquote talk to educators who've experienced our training. I'll just show you this video. Let's see. Y'all want to see it? It's graduates at graduation. So let's do this. And Michelle, someone messaged me to ask for the link to fill out that short form and schedule the call. Can you put that in the chat? Thanks. Okay, y'all ready? Oh no. Can you hear it? Hold on. Let me see what happened.
It was on mute, I think.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thanks. I was like, what happened? Okay, one second. All right.
First of all, we want to thank you, Alana, for just having a space for us. This felt like home. Every week we would go away and you have your life and you go, but then when you come back here, it felt like it was coming back home. It was like being seen for your authentic self when you came for Breathe for Change, which meant the world to all of us.
Yoga is so much more than breathing in asanas, and this experience was so much more than yoga. We've all found this journey transformational, and that was the word we all agreed on, is transformational.
The way you put it together, you just made us all feel so validated in the way that we did things. So we so appreciate Breathe for Change and your commitment to bringing such excellence to the front.
We discovered a true sense of belonging, and we found healing, reflection, and tons of personal growth.
It reminds me of the time when I was being witnessed. That's what I feel like on the screen, that we're all witnessing each other. And what I imagine that you're all saying to us, our teachers, is we see you, we hear you, you matter, you make a difference, and we are never, ever giving up on you.
We have every intention of staying connected forever. This has changed us all for the better.
One of the things that stands out for all of us is the community that we've built with one another. A community that has given us the courage to be vulnerable, a close connection to share in each other's accomplishments, joys, and sorrows, and the push into the stretch zone to take risks we otherwise wouldn't have taken. We've all experienced growth, personal, professional, and relational. And the spirit experience has given us all the chance to reimagine and reinvent ourselves and our futures as Breathe for Change wellness champions.
One of the things that we definitely all resonate is this idea that new beginnings happen every day if we allow it, and noticing that the light that shines in every single person, being mindful that behind that light there is a journey and a story. So take care of it. Love on everyone as you want others to love on you. And Breathe for Change, our mentors, we thank you all so much for creating this opportunity for us to just continue to spread love.
It has given us empowerment, strength, courage, inspiration, and lasting community. Oh my God, I'm getting like all teary. It's inspired us to bring yoga and mindfulness to our friends, our families, our students, our colleagues, and community. And it has inspired us to achieve greatness, to be vulnerable, and to be our genuine selves.
I grow, you grow, we grow. Thank you.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
So there you have it. Hopefully that gave you a little bit more of a taste. And again, thank you all so much for coming and for staying this extra 20-something minutes to hear more about our training. And we would just absolutely love to spend this summer with you. For those of you who are thinking about doing the summer with us, or October, and we're so excited. So again, if you're even remotely interested, definitely just fill out the form and schedule your call, because we have hundreds of educators applying every week. And we want to make sure that if you're interested, we at least know, so we can support you in making it possible if that's something that you want to do. And again, everyone has different, has different needs financially. And so just let our educator development advisors know. We do have a financial assistance program that's based completely on financial need. If all the options that we've talked about tonight don't work for you still, we will never, ever turn anyone away. So we would give you an application to our financial assistance program. So just wanted to name that, so you are aware that we do everything we can to make this accessible, because we want everyone to have access. So thank you all so much. Michelle, you want to close us with all the people who stayed?
Oh, absolutely. Let's take a very deep breath in. Put your hands on your heart. Breathe in. Exhale it out. Now open up your arms, take a deep inhale, spread those arms wide, and exhale, give yourself a hug, pat yourself on the back. All right, everybody.
Thank you so much. Hopefully see you all soon. And you can continue coming to these Wednesday wellness and SEL webinars. We also have some more free resources for you on our website. So I just left the link so that you can have access, and you can share this with your staff and other friends and colleagues that you know, because we want to make sure that everyone has free access to what we do. So see you soon. Enjoy.